Let's talk about JavaScript. Does anyone know which is the most popular programming language in the world? It's JavaScript. Now when someone says it's Python and everyone looks at that person, right? It's not Python, it's JavaScript. JavaScript is not only the most popular programming language, it's more popular than the second and the third combined, which is something incredible. Never in history of programming something like that happened. And because some of you may not agree on that, I respect your thoughts. So let's do something. Let's go to GitHub. You know what GitHub is, right? GitHub is the Bible of coding. So, you know that GitHub, where 97% of the code in the world is, that's a lot of code. Every year they do a survey and they share some statistics about which are the most popular programming languages, the trendy ones, all these things, right? So let's have a look. Let's have a look to the most popular programming languages according to GitHub. Objective-C, Scala, Swift, many things, right? Some of them may be familiar to you. We keep climbing on the charts, things start getting serious. We got CSS. Is CSS a programming language or not? It's controversial. It's controversial. I gave a talk in Amsterdam a few months ago, and one of the speakers was an expert CSS developer. And he was writing a book, all these things. He's a famous YouTuber as well. And he did a poll on Twitter saying, is CSS a programming language, yes or no? 52% of the people said yes, 48% of the people say no. So isn't clear, right? Isn't clear. Because CSS doesn't look like a programming language. It's more like a markup thingy. However, it inherits elements from programming languages. For instance, you know what a media query is? Yeah, thanks to media query, we can change the user interface for mobile devices. Yeah, I want my elements to display like that on a tablet, but if I change the orientation, I want to change the layout, right? That's a media query. A media query is just an if statement. If the resolution is that, do something else, do something else. That's a classic structure in programming languages, right? According to the standards, CSS is not a programming language. But anyway, that's a separate story, right? Let's keep climbing. PHP, Ruby, and then what do we have after Ruby? We got Java. Look, this is the number of, if I'm correct, repositories, the number of projects using that language. Java, almost 1 million. You see, what we got second? Python, literally 1 million. So the combination of Python and Java is about 2 million. We agree on that, right? If we don't agree with that, it's going to be hard to have a common understanding. Is there anything else about Python? Yes, it's JavaScript. And how many repos in JavaScript do we have? Oops, more, even more. What's going on, guys? 2.3 million. That's pretty unique in history of software development. Yeah? When I started working with JavaScript, it wasn't even a serious language. It was a toy language, but it has improved a lot. It has, now it's a very, 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 very powerful language, and it goes beyond the scope of the session to explain the technical analysis of why that happened. But without going into detail, can anyone tell me why that gap? Why Python, being apparently the most popular programming language in the world, apparently because that's not true, is not even as half as popular of JavaScript? Do you think JavaScript is any easier to program with? Is any faster? What was the main advantage of programming with JavaScript?
Libraries.
The libraries.
It's the web browser. It works with web browsers.
That you got the key. JavaScript was introduced in December 1995, which is almost 24 years ago, right? JavaScript, the first version, does anyone know how long it took the creator of JavaScript to write the first version? It was 10 days or 2 weeks, if you include the weekends, right? It doesn't matter. So obviously, that was a very tiny library. But the thing is, in 1995, the creator of JavaScript knock the door of the most popular web browser. Can anyone tell me, probably you are about 35, you know, which was the most popular web browser in 1995? Netscape, correct, Netscape 4, long time ago. At that time, Netscape, or let me rephrase it, the web browser, the web, generally speaking, wasn't as important as it today in 1995. Who had internet in 1995? Few people, right? However, JavaScript, or let me rephrase that, Netscape agreed to incorporate JavaScript. So JavaScript got married to the web browser. As a side effect, because the web has grown a lot, now everyone has a web browser everywhere. I hope you agree on that. On my laptop, on my tablet, on my smartphone, even some smartwatches, and of course in the smart TVs. Because because the web browser runs everywhere, JavaScript runs everywhere. It's the very single programming language on earth that runs everywhere. That's why it's so popular. It's so popular. I've been working on many multi-billion companies where whenever they wanted to implement a new feature, like show me the friends that are in the corner, they had to build a feature for iOS, build a feature for Android, build a feature for the web, build a feature. You get the idea, right? That's exhausting. It's too much energy, too much money. It's hard to balance. With JavaScript, you build once and you deploy it everywhere. Yeah? Because JavaScript is so well implemented, many companies are looking for JavaScript developers and React developers. We'll talk about React probably next week if you want. But today I would like to focus on JavaScript. So JavaScript is the future, and why not the present? If you want to break into the IT market, JavaScript is the right thing to learn. So let's do a bit of JavaScript. How can we write JavaScript code? There are many different ways to do it. Probably the easiest one is just to run JavaScript in the web browser. We agree that the web browsers support JavaScript. Do they support Python? No. Java? No. JavaScript? Yes. All right, so we don't need to install, we don't need to download anything. We just need to go to a web browser, like this. This is a web browser. And what do? I'll show you. I like to open a new tab, and to be honest with you, I like to open an incognito tab. Yeah? And why an incognito? Because if the tab is not incognito, we may be affected by the execution of extensions. Yeah? Sometimes that is a source of problems. So just to make sure, and it's impossible to be 100% sure, but to minimize the chances of having technical issues, I would like to open an incognito tab. Yeah? This is an incognito tab. And then what? Once I got the incognito tab, I'll do right click anywhere. I click on inspect, and then you won't get that, but you will get something like that, probably. You see, at the bottom of my screen, I got the DevTools. That's the utility that developers use to debug and to analyze the behavior, the user interface, the performance, the bottlenecks of your application. It's a very important aspect of the development journey. So I got my DevTools here because I'm going to use DevTools a lot. Thankfully, with modern Google Chrome, you can click on the three dots and you can open it in a floating window and dock into separate windows. I click there, and now I got DevTools in full screen. So I got more space to do coding. And then what? Unfortunately, the ability to write JavaScript directly on the browser is a bit hidden, but I'll show you how to do it. And of course, you'll get access to this video afterwards, so you can recap if you need it. You see on top, you don't see that, but if I zoom out the screen a bit, you will see on top some tabs. So elements, sources, network, blah, blah, blah. I'm particularly interested in the second one. In your case, may not be the second one because you can rearrange them, you see? So ignore the order. The important is to select the appropriate name, sources. And when you click in the sources, I believe by default, you'll get something like file system, something like that. We don't care about that. We want to click on the right arrow on the left-hand side, and we need to find something called snippets. You see, it's quite hard to find. But once you find it, it's fantastic. It's the best way to deal with JavaScript coding. So once you go to snippets, you can click on new snippet. Yeah, and of course, you can see I got dozens of snippets. A snippet is just a canvas, a piece of text where I can write some JavaScript. Yeah, every snippet is independent to each other, so it's like a sandbox. All right, so let me add a title for this snippet, Intro to JS. And now, there is only one thing I like to suggest, to advise. Before writing any single line of sexy JavaScript, please make sure you surround your code with curly brackets. It goes beyond the scope of the session to explain why. And probably for today, it will be fine to deal without the brackets. But in the long term, you may have problems. That helps to keep the scope of your code under control. Without the brackets, your code may affect your browser entirely. With the brackets, you are sandboxing the scope of your code. Yeah? So you cannot do things that may affect the behavior and the performance of your web browser. Once we got the curly brackets, it's time to do some coding. JavaScript is a functional programming language. That means that everything turns around functions. Yes? What a function is a piece of code that we can execute, we can reuse, we can pass arguments, all these sort of things. So let's create the most fundamental function in JavaScript. Look at the syntax. Function, and then the name of the function, I like to call it welcome, then parentheses, yeah, and then let's do nothing inside of the parentheses, just open and close parentheses, and now curly brackets, and finally, we have to return something. Return welcome to Codery, exclamation mark, happy face, right? That's the most fundamental function you can write in JavaScript. One line, function token, name of the function, return, and then what you want to return. And now, can anyone tell me how do I invoke the function? Does anyone know? Yes, I want to invoke the welcome function. How do we do that?
We just recall it by typing welcome, right?
Correct. Now, look, we can do it before or after. It doesn't really matter at this stage of the journey. Look, like that. Yeah? So here we define the welcome function, but it's not running. It's not running yet. It's there, but it's not running. On line number 6, we execute the function. It runs. And now the question is, how do we run the snippet? Because we want to execute it. Console.log, okay, there are a few things. So one thing is console.log, this is for debugging purposes, but I want to run the snippet. Look, on the right-hand side, look, you see that button, run a snippet. If you are a Windows user, you can run it by pressing Ctrl-Enter in your keyboard. If you are a Mac user, you can run it by hitting Command-Enter. Or you can simply click on the button. And then, that's interesting. Look, when I click on the button, I could expect welcome to Codery message at the bottom. But it's not happening. Yeah? That's unexpected. And this is why I explained before that things may go wrong. Yeah? That happens, for instance, with our students going to a job interview. They're trying to prove something and something is not working as expected. That's absolutely fine. Let's debug it. Let's see how can we get the message back. For instance, with JavaScript, you can do that. Console.log, and let's see if that displays anything. Here you go. You see? With console.log, we can print messages. Console.log, welcome. We execute welcome and look at the output, welcome to Codery. Does it make sense? We can click on the button or we can press the shortcut. The most fundamental data structure in JavaScript. However, imagine that we had an amazing idea, we got funding from a venture capital, maybe 50 million to start dealing with the platform, and then we want to obviously add new features, and we realize that welcome to Codery is a bit generic. We want to welcome our individual users. Welcome Patrick, welcome Mary, welcome Peter. You know, we want to say welcome to the user who is dealing with our system. Thankfully, with JavaScript, we can customize the behavior of our functions. Look at how we do it. First of all, when we execute welcome, we can pass an argument, or more than one, of course, any number of arguments. For instance, Peter, right? And then what? Name, then on the function itself, we need to capture that argument. So we need to define a variable that will host that string, that text. Can you please, guys, give me an appropriate name for that variable? Name, fantastic. I like it, name. Can we call it Brexit? Technically speaking, yes. Technically speaking, yes. However, if you are facing a job interview and you have to analyze that code, what your thoughts will be? It's not the best practice because it goes against readability. The main challenge with coding is not about writing code, it's not about building efficient code, it's about writing standard code that is understandable by your colleagues. Right? That's the main challenge. Seems easy, but it's not. Name. All right, so once we got the name, we can easily combine string literals, welcome to Codery, and then plus the name of the user. So that should display welcome to Codery, happy face Peter. Let's have a look. Here you go. You see? It works. That's the classic way of dealing with strings, with messages in JavaScript. However, because JavaScript became so popular in the last decade, now the standard has grown, so we got many alternatives to deal with the same thing. Can anyone know a different way to deal with strings and variables in JavaScript?
Is it use the other kind of...
Which one?
It's like a quotation mark that's next to one.
The quotation one next to one.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. Okay.
This is backticks. Yeah? Probably you've never used that unless you've been doing some JavaScript before, but there is a weird character in your keyboard, which is the backtick. If you're a Windows user, it's on the top left of your corner, most probably. If you're a Mac user, it's on the bottom left of your keyboard. You see the backtick? It's like a quote, but it's not a quote. And then what do we need to do with that? Look at the syntax. The syntax is a bit special. We need to surround the entire line with backticks. And then, you tell me, what do you think my function will return at the moment? Look, you're right. Welcome to Codery name. That's wrong. That's wrong. That doesn't make any sense. In reality, the message should be welcome to Codery Peter. So what we need to do is to interpolate, to transform name into the actual value of name, which in this particular case is Peter. How do we do that? Look at the syntax, guys. $, curly bracket, and close $, and close the curly bracket, sorry. You can see that Google Chrome immediately changed the color of the name, which is a good thing. It proves that something has changed. So if we run it again, welcome to Codery Peter. Does it make sense? Do you have any questions? No? I have a question for you. Does anyone know why we use the dollar symbol instead of the sterling or the euro or the yuan or any other?
It's an American.
It's American, yes, but what?
Just comes from California, I imagine.
So the majority of the software comes from America. That's why we are using the dollar. Actually, do you know which is the most popular JavaScript library today in the world? React, correct. Who looks after React? Facebook, correct. And before React, who was the former king of JavaScript? Wrong. Angular, that's right. And who look after Angular? Google. Google versus Facebook. Yeah? And who was the king before Angular? It was jQuery. Yeah? I've heard that some boot camps in London still teach jQuery. That's pointless. If you accept one single advice in your life from me, never trust anyone trying to teach you jQuery, because that's not going to help you in your professional career, right? jQuery died in 2011. You may be thinking, hey, it's 8 years, it's not that long, right? My car is 12 years old. In JavaScript time, 8 years is the same as 200 trillion years in human time, right? Don't do it. All right, so anyway, jQuery is American, Angular is American, React is American, but what's next? Does anyone know what's the main rival of React today? It's Vue. It's true. Who looks after Vue? The Chinese. It's true. That's true. Seems a stupid thing, but I hope you agree that software is the most important career on the 21st century. Europe needs 900,000 developers by 2020. US needs more than 1 million developers by 2020. There's a huge shortage of developers. Having control on software gives you a lot of power. The Americans had the control from the early stage of development journey. However, now, by the very first time ever, they may lose the control because of the Chinese. Yeah? That's a highlight in software history. It's not a minor thing. And look at the Chinese. Did they create a framework for Java or for Python or for PHP? No, they know where the power is. That's why they put a lot of effort into JavaScript. We'll see what happens. But at the moment, there is a beautiful fight in a healthy way between React and Vue to control the web, right?
So it's not a company, it's just
It's
time in general.
in theory it's one person, yeah. But obviously, Vue has grown that much. They got like 100,000 stars on GitHub, something like that. Now there's a team of people, and they got officially or unofficially support from the government. Anyway, so that's the way you deal with messages in JavaScript. Let's make things a bit more spicy. You know, you like spicy things, right? So let's talk about arrays. Can anyone tell me what an array is?
It's a kind of a container that have contain objects or
Easier.
Collection of information.
Collection of information. It's a
It
list.
can be a list, it can be a grid, it can be 4D, you know, it's all these sort of things.
Yeah, there are different data structures in JavaScript. Arrays is arguably the most important one. Yeah? We've been running many challenges with many senior developers. I'll talk about that a bit later on. And you will see that the more experienced JavaScript developer you are, the more you tend to transform everything into an array. Because arrays are so powerful that if I have a bottle of water and I transform it into an array, I can manipulate it easily. Yeah, I know that's a bit a stupid example, but I hope you get the idea, right? In JavaScript, there are different data structures. Arrays is clearly the most powerful one. All right, so let's deal with arrays. I'm going to create an array of characters. Look at my strategy. I like to create a variable. You can create the variables using let characters equals Donald, Boris and Angela. And now this is an array. How many elements? Imagine that, let me rephrase the question. I'm going to rename my function to get characters size. So then I want to display the size of my characters. How many characters do we have, guys? 3, correct. We know that from a human point of view. Technically speaking, how do we capture the number of characters?
We code the name.
Length. I don't know, I'm just typing what you said.
Okay, you call the
Characters dot length, like that. So what will that function return, guys? 3. There is an extra beer for the first person to give me the right answer. It's a friendly way to tell you are wrong. It's not 3. 2, wrong. 4, wrong. You can keep giving numbers like 56, but you'll be wrong. It's not a number.
It'll be 6, 5, 6.
That was very romantic, but it's wrong as well. No, wrong. It's not a number, so stop giving me numbers. That won't work.
Name.
Wrong. Ah.
So in this way, you're gonna ask the length is gonna count the letters in characters, literally.
I don't know. It's not a number.
-1. Oh,
Wrong. -1 is a number.
I know.
Nothing.
No, why nothing?
Because
Does it
You haven't put
based
any-
on a number?
I don't know.
If you remember, 14 and a half minutes ago, we explained that the most basic data or structure in JavaScript is a function that returns something.
Oh, and there's no return.
Oh,
That's fine.
there is no return. And then what? What happened if there is no return, guys? Nothing. That's correct. That's correct. Nothing. Technically speaking, what nothing means? Let's have a look. Ah, I love it. Right, undefined. Yeah, that's a classic problem. Yeah, I've been working with hundreds of graduates in my life. And when they approach me and say, hey, my code is perfect, why it doesn't work? Undefined. We forgot to add a return statement. Does it make sense? All right, and now I'm giving you another chance, but you don't have extra beer, unfortunately. So what our algorithm returns now?
6.
2, 6. What else? Why 2, why 6? 3. Of course it's 3, right? I don't know why you thought 2 or why you thought 6, but of course it's 3. Because our list of characters has 3 elements. Comma separated elements. Does it make sense? All right. And now imagine that we don't want to get the size of the list. We want to get the first character. Get first character. We know what the first character is from a human perspective. But technically speaking, how do we access the first element of the list? Index 0, 1. How do we do that?
So you will be return characters. Yeah, just at the end of length.
At the end of length?
Square bracket, 0, and then close, and then go.
That's controversial. Yeah, that's correct. Character length, that will return a number. So there is nothing we can do on top of that. We need to remove the length and do that. Characters refer to the list of characters, you see, and then give me the element on index number 0. Yeah, so index number 0 is the first one. That's a bit controversial because we as humans, generally speaking, we start counting at number 1. But JavaScript, generally speaking, starts counting at 0. Whenever I had to interview a senior developer, then my question is that the case all the time? Is there any scenario where this is a bit inconsistent? Probably you don't know the answer, but I'll tell you. Dates are very controversial in JavaScript. Why? Because when we talk about dates, sometimes, listen, sometimes we start counting at 0, and sometimes we start counting at 1, which is ridiculous, but it's the way JavaScript works. I'll give you an example. The days of the month start at 1. So day 1 is the first of that month. But the months of the year start at 0, which doesn't make any sense. So month number 0 is January. Month number 1 is February. Yeah? JavaScript is sometimes controversial, like any other programming language, to be honest. Yeah? So that only helps to remark that the only reason why JavaScript is so popular is not because it has the best architecture, it was very well thought, all these things. No, no, no. It got the ring, got married to the web browser in 1995. Right? That said, I think it's fair to say as well that because JavaScript has grown that much, now there is so many talented people looking after JavaScript that these things won't happen anymore. So all these sort of inconsistencies belong to the legacy JavaScript. In modern JavaScript, you can see many amazing features. Does anyone know who decides the future of JavaScript, by the way? ECMAScript, all right? ECMAScript is the standard. Yeah? But who creates the standard? There is a document, the ECMAScript document, that gets updated every year, every July actually. But who writes that document?
They sold it, didn't they?
Is it Facebook? Is it Google? Is it Microsoft? Is it Boris Johnson? Who is doing that? Not really. There is a group of people in Switzerland called the TC39. It's like a secret group of people. They are based somewhere in the mountains. Probably not, right? Probably they are on an average WeWork building in Zurich. But the thing is, this group of people, they decide the future of JavaScript. And thankfully, or let me rephrase that, historically speaking, some of their decisions were controversial, trying to be polite. But today, thankfully, they realized that that wasn't the way to scale the language. So now there is a GitHub project, the TC39 GitHub project, where everyone can contribute. So if one day you wake up with a big hangover because of all the Jaeger bombs the night before, and you thought you got a great idea about how to improve JavaScript, you can submit your idea and the community will review it. It wouldn't be the first time, of course not, that someone had a great idea, the community voted for it, and now it's part of the standard of JavaScript. That's an amazing thing, right? That's the way it works now. All right, so arrays, the first element, 0. And what if we want to get the last element of the array?
-1.
-1? Dot length -1? Is it -1 or length -1? Characters dot length -1, like that? Can you explain why? Correct. So length will return 3. We agree on that, right? Because JavaScript is 0 base, in reality, the last element is not on index 3. It's on index 2. Correct. 0, 1, and 2. Characters of length will return 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. Correct. Sometimes I ask stupid questions to the audience just to see if anyone is paying attention, right? All right, will that work if we add, for instance, a fourth argument, Kim? Will that return Kim or Angela? Kim, correct. So that algorithm is pretty strong, it's beautiful, it's sexy. Because regardless of the size of my list, it will always fetch the last element of the list. Right? Talking a bit about programming culture. Look at the syntax. Look at the way we declare the get first character. It's one word. You see there are no spaces or weird characters in between. But you can see that we separate the words using capitals. Can anyone tell me what's the correct way to describe that case?
Well, it's called.
What?
What the practice of doing that is
Yeah, so I want you to tell me, technically speaking, when you write code like that, with multiple words combining one single word with capital letters in between, what's the name of that case?
camel.
Camel case, correct. Why camel? Because it goes up and down like a camel, right? Sort of. And what if we in reality we do that? Very popular, for instance, in PHP, get first character. What's the name of that case, guys? Snake, correct. It does like the snake, up and down. And what if we go back to camel, however, we change the first character to capital as well. That's not camel anymore. What's that? That's more complicated. What?
Object.
No, it's not the name of the case. That's Pascal case, because Pascal, which is a very old programming language, was the first one to introduce that. And the last one, all this syntax is valid in JavaScript. The next one, it's not. So what I'm going to type next is invalid. Get first character. You see, Google Chrome is immediately highlighting like, hey, what are you doing? That's not right. What's the name of that case, guys? Kebab case, that's right. Kebab. Why? Because it looks like the blade going through the meat, yeah? However, if you're a senior developer with 85 years of experience, probably the way you call that is Lisp case instead of kebab case, because it's a classic way to describe it. All right, so we got our camel case function, we got our list of elements, and let's talk about objects. So an object is a collection of key value pairs, like a dictionary, yeah? Where we can have, for instance, the first name, we have the last name, we have age, whatever, yeah? It's a collection, it's like a database. This is what we call in JavaScript an object. Can anyone tell me if the name of the function is getFirstName, how do we return the first name of our character, guys? Dot, what? Here, dot?
First name.
Dot, no.
Character.
Character dot first. Actually, I missed the T, right? First name. That's correct. That's the way you can access values of specific properties. You see? It works. Can we have nested objects? Let me rephrase the question. Can I have a property called name? And then inside of name, can I have first and last? Will this work? How do we access the last name of our funny character? Character dot what?
Name.
Yeah?
Dot
First, last, whatever. Yeah? Yeah, let's do first. That's correct. You can see that in JavaScript, you can access individual, you can drill down into your object details as much as necessary. You see? And then it works. Does it make sense? All right. Can we combine arrays and objects? Let me rephrase that. Can we have an array of characters so each character has first and last name? Of course we can, yeah? We can combine data structures, and this is where things start becoming a bit more spicy, right? But that's fine. Look, characters equals array, not object, square brackets, remember. And now look, first name, Donald, last name. So, and of course, we can have multiple elements. So now the question is, how do we access the last name of the second character.
Is it dot last name too?
Dot last name true? Controversial.
Oh, one. Sorry.
I think the same as bracket first.
So then what? Okay, let's start again.
So then you go character.
Character,
Yeah. And then usually you say you want access.
brackets? No. Yes.
Yeah.
And then what?
Which one do you want access again?
I want to access I want to return Johnson essentially.
So this is one. Oh, actually, that would be 1, 2.
1, 2.
Bracket dot last name.
Character 1?
Bracket 1 dot last name.
Right. What will this function return? That is extra beer plus 5 points of advantage on table tennis for the first one giving me the right answer. What will this function return? That's not obvious, so don't tell me anything obvious.
There is a
Undefined. Okay, undefined.
character is not defined.
Character is not defined. So that's an error. All right, let's have a look. Fantastic. You got the extra beer. That's true. That's true. You see, that's really good. Can anyone tell me, apart from you obviously, because you got it, why we got that error?
Because it says let characters, not let character.
Correct. The variable name is characters in plural. Yeah? Does it matter if I, for instance, rename it to characters with capital C? Will this work or not? No, correct. JavaScript, right, here you go. JavaScript is case sensitive. Be careful. If your variable is declared with lowercase, it should remain lowercase forever, yeah? And then, for instance, if you've done a bit of Python, you know that code will be illegal. Indentation is very important in Python. Is it that important in JavaScript? In other words, will that work? That's correct. In JavaScript, indentation is just a recommendation. There are ways to evaluate the quality of your code. We use them at Codery a lot, but they are not going to make your exercise fail. Yeah? It's just a warning, not an error. Let's run this code. Johnson, it does work, right? So now, yeah, if I put it right, of course it will work. And then probably the last question of this block. Can we have an array inside of an object that belongs to an array? So can we have something like that, if that makes any sense? Okay, the example is a bit stupid, right? But I hope you get my point. So I have a property, which is an array, inside of an object that belongs to another array. So can anyone tell me, and that's the last question of this block, in the next 65 seconds, how do I access 2002? And 12, sorry?
So, same way, but like then at the end of, so, the characters, 0,
Yeah,
victories,
yeah,
1. 11, 12, you said, right?
yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Do you agree on that? Yeah, you see characters, we said, A, focus on that highlighted code. 0 means go to the first object. And then what else? Dot victories, that means focus here. We are narrowing the issue, you see? And finally, 1, because JavaScript starts at 0, 0, and 1. So that should return 2012. It works. Do you have any questions? No? All right, so in the next 10 minutes to finish this meetup, I would like to show you our training platform. You are more than invited to join it is free, either now or later on. Let me show it to you. So once you go to codery.com, you get a lot of details about our platform and our bootcamp. So for instance, this lady, she's a former student. She got a job a couple of weeks ago. So you will see a play button on top. If you click on it, you will be redirected to our platform where you can feel the joy of coding by playing online. We have a version, we have a part where you train by yourself, you have a part where you fight with other people. So for instance, this is the result of the competition we ran in Amsterdam a few months ago. But let's do a bit of training first. So, how that works. When you land on the platform, the very first thing you will see is that. You can train your JavaScript, your React, your HTML and CSS, and coming soon, Python, Java, and Ruby. Let's do a bit of JavaScript. We got 3 levels of difficulty, so we start from the very, very, very basics, and then of course things become more complex over time. Talking about the basics. You see, we got several topics: strings, if else, objects. Let's do a bit of objects actually. I like this topic. Look how this works. On the left hand side, eventually you should be able to zoom it. Here you go. On the left hand side, you got the problem. We are expecting you to create a function called getFirstName. Yeah, makes sense? How many arguments getFirstName receives, guys? 1, correct. It's not 2, it's 1. Look at the curly bracket. Can you tell me the type of data here? Is it, I give you 5 options. String, Boolean, number, object, array. It's an object, correct, which is a collection of key value pairs. So as part of that function, we expect that whenever we invoke getFirstName with that object, it should return Peter, because the first name. If we repeat the exercise passing this object, first name should return Mari, right? That's the strategy. If that sounds like Chinese to you, we help you with some external resources, even some dedicated videos. Every question has a very short video of a couple of minutes. So then on the right hand side, it's time to do a bit of coding. Yeah? getFirstName. What will you do here, guys? You tell me. Define the argument. Fantastic. Here, in the parentheses. Can you give me a good argument name? Person. Fantastic. I like it. I like it. Because that looks like a person. I don't know if we got any more details. The description talks about user. So we may call it user, person, but not definitely car, building, or council estate, right? Person sounds good to me. And then what? Return person.firstName. Do you agree on that, guys? Yeah? Cool. You can see we got an evaluate button, so let's submit it. It works. We got confetti. Everyone loves confetti because of a reason, right? So once we got that, is there anything you will change here? Are we missing anything? Semicolon. That's interesting. If we scroll down, elegance console, missing semicolon. What that means? In classic JavaScript, semicolons were mandatory. Without semicolon, your code miserably failed. However, in modern JavaScript, semicolons are optional, but still considered a good practice, syntax sugar by the majority of the community. So let's drop a semicolon, and let's try again. And then it works, and no problems at all. Let's do one more question. Question number 2. getFirstName. Very similar, but in that particular case, we have a nested object. Again, we want to access the first name of the user. So you tell me, how do we do that? Okay, because you don't want to participate, I'll do it. I'll call it Brexit, and I'll return Brexit.no-deal. Will this work? No. Of course not, right? So then what?
What's the left side again?
Yeah, remove it.
No, like the chunks.
Ah, sorry. Yeah. How many arguments our getFirstName function has? 2 arguments? Controversial. Why 2? Yeah, look at the curly brackets. Look, when I hover the opening curly brackets, it hovers the closing one. You see it at the bottom? It's highlighting. This is highlighting because, do you know Visual Studio Code? Visual Studio Code is the most popular IDE, is the most popular code editor in the world today. Yeah? Because of many reasons, supported by Microsoft, monthly releases, open source, blah, blah, blah. But on top of that, does anyone know in which language Visual Studio Code is written? It is JavaScript, correct. Look, this is Visual Studio Code. That's a desktop application, right? And it's very powerful. It's extremely powerful, but it's still written in JavaScript. It's a way to prove how powerful JavaScript is. Because it's written in JavaScript, we can reuse that editor on the web. Yeah? And this is literally what we did. That's the Visual Studio Code editor. So we can take advantage of all the amazing features. Syntax highlighting, automatic indentation, code completion, all this sort of thing, right? So we got 1 argument. How do we access the first name of the user, guys? I hope you agree we need to pass user here. Return what? Username, no. Dot name, dot first, with semicolon. What do you think, guys? Right or wrong?
Maybe you have to call the function with
No, the function is called automatically. Yeah, so don't worry about that. That's correct. Yeah, that's the way it works. Confetti time. I'll skip the next questions. You can train by yourself. This is only about objects. We got training about arrays, mathematical operations, strings, if else, loops, many different things, right? What happened at the end of the exercise? Look, you get that's it. You get a score. So this score is telling you how good your performance was across that particular training topic. What are we measuring here? Tenacity, how many questions you've completed. Accuracy, how many times you submit and you fail. Speed, how long it took you to complete the challenge. Focus, how many times you went to Google to Stack Overflow to see how to access the first element of the array. And finally, elegance, how standard your code is. Look after standards from the very first day. So again, this is training offline, but then very often we run coding challenges. Some of you have participated already. Let me show you an example. What a coding challenge is. A coding challenge, and you are invited to join the next one, running here on the 21st of August in 2 weeks' time. It's an exercise where developers, they fight against each other. Let me show you how it looks like. You see, here you got the result of combining the performance of each individual developer. And this is one of the reasons why our students manage to secure a job after the bootcamp, because we can provide that information to employers, to the industry, so they really know what the talent is. And what do we do with that? We can obviously compare the results. So we can see who finished in last position, who finished, we can rebuild the results. I'll show you. You see? And we can analyze the code, of course. We can see which are the strengths, the weaknesses, all these sort of things. And on top of that, now we're introducing team challenges, also on Meetup. So you are more than welcome to join us on the 21st of August. Look how this works. we set up multiple teams, and then they work as a group, not individually. The goal is not to prove how good you are, it's to be the best team. So they work by teams. You can see different rank titles, which gives you a feeling about how talented each developer is, and at the end, we reveal the results. Yeah, so then you can see who is the best team. On top of that, if you like the idea of coding, of course, you can keep practicing over time, so you can see the best developers over a period of time, and you can even check analytics. Best player of the day, best player of the week, best player of the month, best player ever, analytics by country, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. 21st of August, we have a team challenge in React. On the 5th of September, we have an international team challenge versus Spain. So you are obviously more than welcome to join us at any of these. From my part, do you have any questions? No? All right, that was easy. So if you like this session, we'd like to invite you to, or let you know that we run a bootcamp here. We help people following this strategy. We create apps from the very first day, the very first minute, following agile methodologies. So if anyone is interested, you got all the details on the website. And the very last thing is you got the Book Your Place link. So just as a matter of respect to you, because I know that you came from work or from different places, if anyone is interested and you join in the next 24 hours, we have a promo code. You get 10% off. Right? So that code will expire tomorrow midnight. Apart from that, thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoy the session. Again, next week we have more events. Every single week we have events, so check Meetup, right? And if you have any question, we'll stay here for a while. So now I'm going to the kitchen. I'm going to bring some drinks. We can go to the terrace, unless it's raining, hopefully not. We can have a chat in the terrace about coding, cars, fashion, or whatever, and then we can play a bit of ping pong. So thank you very much, guys. See you soon. Cheers.